Welcome back to Crows Before Bros. I'm Randy.
I'm Lauren.
And today we have special guest, Liz is a longtime friend of the show, fan of the show. We are friend of Liz, fan of Liz.
We are a big fan of Liz.
Big fan of Liz.
Big fans, big friends.
BFBF.
Double boyfriends.
Double boyfriends! Aww.
We are stoked to have you. We're
Yeah,
stoked to
thank
talk
you.
about your newest release, and yeah,
Thanks so much for having me. I was like big fan of the channel for like forever. And so I was like coming up to Edmonton.
and
Please.
we both had the distinct pleasure of getting to beta read
Yes.
your
Yeah.
newest release.
Liz wrote, You and I Collide. Woo! Tell us about it a bit, Liz.
Yeah, so we have, as you know, a non-binary chemistry teacher meets the new guy in town. They go on all sorts of adventures throughout the town, trying to find joy in like a bunch of different capacities. Lots of fun, like found family tropes, lots of enjoyable, silly moments that may or may not give you secondhand embarrassment.
For sure. I will attest to that. Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's a story about love in all sorts of different forms, including loving yourself and coming to terms with some things that you need to work on and kind of embrace and forgive yourself for, and so on and so forth. So
I really like the kind of childhood bucket list idea in this book, which is like the idea of things you never did as a kid and like chasing it down and wanting to be like, okay, I never did that, and I think it would be full of joy, and even if it feels stupid to go do that thing, it's like healing to me to do that. I feel like I have a lot of those kind of things, and so it's like me and my husband were like, this summer we're gonna go fly a kite, because I've never done that. Like,
You've never flown a kite?
no. As an adult, it's like, it's hard to be like, I'm going to go do this thing that is like childish because other people did it when they were a kid and I never had that experience, but there's something so like freeing in that too.
yeah, and like it's so liberating to carve out like a piece of time specifically to embrace and experience joy. Having the burdens of adulthood can be like
It's been a week, folks.
I think just making that intentional space to be like, you know what, I'm just gonna go do something I love, or I'm gonna do something I think I'm gonna love, and then even if you don't end up like super enjoying it at the end, you could be like, well, maybe younger me would have had a good time. At least I didn't break a leg, right? Well, hopefully you didn't break a leg.
Even if you don't end up enjoying the thing, like having those new experiences, I think as an adult we tend to be like, okay, well, I like this and this and this, and those are the things that I do until I die.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the way we have to live.
No, and I think being able to experience these things with people you really enjoy being around can really impact your experience as well, right? Because like regardless, even if it's something you're kind of like meh about, right, it's still gonna be fun because you're surrounded by the people you love, right? So
I thought that was a really interesting part of reading your book. They're so new to knowing each other, but instantly connected, and I thought that was really cool. Like when I think about the things that I would really like to try, I'm like, oh, like I would like to try that within like the safety of the people that I know the very best. And I thought that was a really cool part of their love story, was that they connected and pretty immediately were like, hey, let's do this crazy thing together. Like may I spoil, like the bathtub painting?
yeah, sure, go for
I
it.
was like, I could just never imagine knowing someone so intimately so soon, but I was like, this is so cool. And so like this was one of the scenes where I was almost like living vicariously through the characters. I was like, this is a really intimate, cool thing, and a brave thing to do with somebody that you just met.
There's almost like an element of safety too, because they don't really know each other super well, that it's like, well, you have no preconceived notions of who I am.
That's
so
true.
like you can't really judge me for it.
Yeah,
right?
And like if you do, then whatever, bye.
Then, yeah, exactly. Whatever by. It's not like I have any kind of harbored feelings, or there's no expectations or anything, right? It's just okay, cool. See ya.
That was
like
that.
yeah. Thanks for the bathtub. Oh, I wanted to ask you folks something.
Oh, you wanted to ask us
I want to ask
something.
you folks something.
Okay.
If you were to draw up like a childhood bucket list for yourself, what is like one thing that you're like, I really want to do this?
I feel like I already said like flying a kite is a big one for me. Like I've never done that, and I was like, it just seems like a gleeful thing to do. I also love the idea of like, I grew up camping, but I really wanted to like, you know, always throw a bunch of blankets in the back of a truck and just like under the stars.
Yeah.
But there's so many mosquitoes here that it makes it pretty.
Yeah, that's fair.
That is
icky to
true.
do.
I really want to learn how to skateboard, and working with kids, they're always like, Miss Lauren, you're too old for that. And I'm like, come on, I want to try. I would probably like really hurt myself.
You gotta like make sure you have like the knee pads and the elbow
Full
pads.
Tony Hawk.
they talk. But I think that would be a lot of fun. I mean, if I were a person who had like so much money, I would love to rent out. Did anybody ever go to like Great Balls of Fun or places like that?
Yeah, there was a ton of fun in Lethbridge. That was like my go-to spot as a kid.
Yeah, to be able to have free roam of a space like that all by myself would be really, well, not all by myself, but like with pals, with your adult friends.
You don't have to run into any like snot-nosed kids who are like starting fights in the ball pit.
That would be a desire of mine. I mean, it's a thing that I've already done, but to do it, as an adult would be really cool.
I think also those huge, like kind of inflatable balls that you wear on yourself, and you just like run full force into your friends. I want to do that. Let's do that. Let's get concussions.
Next episode.
Watch us get concussed next month.
Do you have any childhood bucket list things that maybe you didn't include in the book that you really hope to do sometime in your real life?
Yeah, most of the ones were in the book. So like the stargazing scene has like always been something, because like I grew up in the middle of this super small town, that small town, Claire's home, right? And so I could see the stars all the time, right? But I've always like wanted to just go like drive out in the middle of nowhere and just like peace out in a bunch of like cozy blankets and snacks. Is there something that I didn't include in the book? I've always wanted to do like a cross-Canada road trip, which I feel like I don't know if I would have enjoyed as a kid as much, but I think I will probably take time to find things that I might have enjoyed. So like for sure going to the dinosaur museum in Drumheller. Yeah. I loved going there when I was a kid. There's like the world's biggest potato in
doing all the
like all those kinds of things.
All the
you could go to the mundare sausage. There's one somewhere northern Alberta, like an alien landing pad.
That's
Alberta's
really
Area
cool.
51.
Yeah. Whoa.
Did you learn nothing from Jurassic Park and like Alien and stuff?
I understand the human nature of Jurassic Park. I totally would be like, hell yeah, let's let the dinosaurs out.
Let's do it.
Let's go. They can't be that dangerous.
They're just little guys, and also big guys.
Could you train a dinosaur? Could you train like a
Could we
Could
domesticate dinosaurs?
we domesticate dinosaurs?
I have the audacity to think that I could domesticate a dinosaur. Don't look at me like that. Can you tell us a little bit about the process of being an indie author specifically?
The process is probably more complicated than it needs to be.
Would you say there's like a reason that you decided on the indie route rather
100%.
than,
Yeah, so when I first published A Kiss of the Siren Song, I knew I didn't want anybody else other than the people that I immediately trusted to touch the story. It was something so deeply important for me to have like that specific kind of queer representation with the character artist that I wanted to hire, the cover designer that I wanted to hire, the fabulous editors that I wanted to hire that I knew were going to understand and respect the story. Yeah. Especially because it was my first book. I was like, this needs to be 100% a very healthy, cultivated, intentional zone for me, and the way to do that is through indie publishing. With You and I Collide, it was a passion project basically. I just wanted to show again like queerness in a very healthy way. I haven't seen a lot of that in trad publishing necessarily. It's not to say it's not out there, but again I wanted it to be very intentional with the non-binary representation, and I never ever wanted to get the comment of, well, are they non-binary enough, right? Because they present as femme. And so I just was like, no, I'm hiring like the people that I know will respect the characters, respect the story, and then like working with like you two as beta readers, I knew that you would be like compassionate to the characters, right? So it's really just my way of making sure that the story stays as like intentional as I wanted it to be. That's not to say that like in the future I will not publish traditionally, but at least for now I want my stories to stay like 100% mine.
It would probably, dare I say, be easier if you weren't such a representation focused author to be like, hell yeah, a traditional publishing deal. I think that's a cool choice.
Yeah, I wanted it to be as authentic as possible, and that's not to say like trad editors or anything would do that. I have no idea because I obviously didn't go through that process, but I really didn't want even like the remote possibility of that. I didn't want anybody's hands to get on the story who were going to be like, well, why are they sapphic, right? In the case of A Kiss of the Siren Song, or like, why is the main character non-binary and You and I Collide? It's like, there's a reason, right? And sometimes people don't always understand that. And so I wanted that to be the focus of just like, no, we have the representation here in like a super healthy way, in like a fun, dynamic way, in how they interact with the world and the other characters and their students, in the case of You and I Collide and stuff, right? So I just wanted it to be 100% mine. Maybe that's selfish, but
that's okay. I think it's like fair to want to honor the characters and the world that you've created and to hold to what you envisioned.
I think a lot of the time in novels that center people in the LGBTQ community, it's like their stories are focused on just like the trauma and like terrible things happening to them all of the time. And it's like, it is sometimes nice to see a book where it's like, this person is existing.
Yep.
And having a good time. They're allowed to just have like a really nice time. And a love story that is normal looking and not full of just like, this was such an uphill, hard, difficult battle for them, which it can be. But it is nice to just be like, hey, people. And not just scary trauma all the time. Yeah,
one of the things about being in the queer community is like you do hear a lot of stories of like trauma from institutions or from parents or friends and family and stuff growing up. And it's like you hear a lot of those stories, but there are so many stories of queer joy, right? There's so many stories of queer love and queer justice, and that's what I wanted to bring to the table. Is like, like, does the trauma exist? Absolutely. I'm not erasing that at all whatsoever. But like, I just want to highlight the queer joy, because specifically for, I don't want to say like the younger generation coming up, but like the new adults, right? Like the 18 to 20-year-olds that are perhaps like exploring their identities, to come across a book like this and be like, I can be loved. Like who I am. I am like worthy of love regardless of who I am. That's an important message for me to be able to send out. And even though I'm just a little author, a little baby bean author for right now, I've even heard like some folks, like in Australia, there's someone who's going and like made a childhood bucket list and has been going through stuff. I've had some folks reach out to me about A Kiss of the Siren Song. They're like, this is the best sapphic representation that I've ever read in a book, and I feel really seen, particularly because both main characters are bisexual, and that's like pretty obvious that like, spoiler alert, that they're attracted to each other when they're both presenting as men. They're still attracted to each other when they're both aware that they're women, right? Yeah. And so I've had people reach out to me and be like, this is how I feel too, so thank you for representing that.
It's gotta really make it worth it, hey?
Oh my god, it's like every time I get a message like that, I have to like put my phone away and cry for like 5 minutes and then come back and respond, because it's so touching.
Yeah. I think that this whole thing kind of tied into my question that I'd written of like, there's so many books about queer rage, and there's a lot of queer rage right now. I literally, I would say in my notes I had written this question a week and a half ago. Yeah. And since then, was the US election, was the UCP leadership vote in Alberta here, like lots of hurt and rage in the queer community especially. I think that to have books that are just like joyous in how we see queer people and queer relationships is so special in this time. I think it would be difficult to not write just a rage-filled book.
You're telling me. That being said, queer love and queer joy is a protest, right? It 100%. It always has been, right? Straight from, the black trans women in Stonewall, right? Like Pride has always been a riot. Pride has always been a protest. And so I've incorporated that in these books in a very specific, intentional way of like, they're joyous. Yeah. These books are jam-packed full of love in so many different ways.
Having a good time whether you like it or not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're gonna fall in love. That is not to say that I do not have revenge or vengeful characters. In particular, so in the second book, so A Kiss of the Ocean's Breath, the sequel to A Kiss of the Siren Song, I have a character named Renfrey, and y'all probably heard me talk about Renfrey a lot, because she is like, she lives in my brain rent-free, especially right now.
Yeah. Is that why you named her Rent-Free? Like
no, I didn't.
She's living rent-free.
Rent-free lives rent-free. She came up as, she kind of just like popped into my head. She's like, boom, this is actually my story. And I was like, excuse me? Pardon? It's like the Kool-Aid Man. Oh, yeah. She was like, actually, I have so many things to say. And I was like, I also have many things to say. What a coincidence. During the drafting, for the first draft of A Kiss of the Ocean's Breath, she was like quite loud. Now that I'm going through editing, redrafting and stuff, I was like, well, maybe I'll like tone her down a little bit, because it feels very over the top. And then all this shit happened. Yeah. And I was like, actually, I think she needs to be worse. Yeah. So she's gonna be worse.
I love that.
she's in fact going to be so much worse that she's going to get her own book. So
I love that.
yeah. So like you said, it's hard not to just like go to the page and be like, I'm going to write the worst stuff. Because it's like, it's safe on the page too, right?
Yeah, I went to an event with TJ Kloon like a month and a half ago maybe. He also talked about like House of the Cerulean Sea is a very joyful book about like family and queer love and all that. And his second book is still that, but a bit angrier. And he like talked about like how he got to that point of being like, yes, I do want to, still at the heart of it is queer love. And the idea of that being a protest, but like it's hard to balance that with like the world that we seem to be living in.
I just recently scoured the Project 2025 book ban list and it's on there.
Yeah,
I 100% believe that.
Yeah.
You're fighting the big fight, but it's also the queer joy part is writing the queer joy is fighting the little fight like every day.
Yeah.
When it comes to things like maybe that smaller bookstore doesn't want to shelve your book. Yep. Or even your book might get into the hands of somebody who may be homophobic or whatever else and may get their gears turning on like, oh, this is like just love.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Crazy concept.
Climbing out of the pit of despair now, you have a lot of works. I mean, you have Cerebral Supernova as your short story that was also part of the Sweet Bitter Love anthology, which both of us were in, which is pretty cool. You are in an upcoming anthology that I'm also in, which I'm so excited about. I feel very honored to be among the ranks of some of you more experienced authors. You've done a lot of stuff. I mean, you've done some editions of your books that have like sprayed edges. You've done some book boxes. You've done a collaborative tea. Do you have anything that really stands out as like a favorite cool thing that you've done in your indie author career?
Yeah. So I've done so many cool things. I feel like every time I have an idea, I find a way to make it work. And then the people that I talk to are like, let's do it, which is awesome. And then we've just found a way to make it work. So yeah, when I reached out to Hidea about let's do the You and I Collide tea, I was inspired by the Sweet Bitter Love tea, right? And we went back and forth a few times, and I'm like a really big chai tea fan. And so I was like, I kind of want it to be more like rich, spicy chai tea. That's like very kind of homey to me. And especially because it's set in the fall, right? So I'm like, I kind of want it to be a little more earthy, a little more like cozy, getting in the mood for like by a fireplace kind of idea. And she just absolutely nailed it. It is so good. So that was a really cool collab. The sprayed edges were really cool. That was with Madison Custom Sprayed Edges. She's in the States, and working with her was so interesting because I was like, I have this vision. These are the things that I want on the edges. I think she made a design in Canva, and like we went back and forth, and it was like the execution was so cool. Now, I think it came in the mail yesterday, so I think I'll be able to actually talk about this now. My books are, well, A Kiss of the Siren Song, You and I Collide will be next year in the Salient Bookshop, which is a small independent bookstore in the States that only sells indie books.
That's cool.
That's
and
really cool.
She does her own sprayed edges there. And so we've done an ombre red to like navy blue.
Ooh,
it is so pretty.
sick.
And it's metallic. Oh, it is
that's awesome.
delicious. And I think it came in the mail yesterday, so I'm super excited to see it.
Honestly, can't wait to see a post about it.
Yeah, so you can order them like straight from her, and she does the edges all in-house. There's like extra merch and stuff too.
That's awesome.
So,
That's so cool.
Yeah. So collaborating like with a bookstore for like 100% special editions for that bookstore only, supporting indies, right, was really special to me.
That is really cool.
I guess like the coolest part for me is I get to hire whoever I want to hire to do all of the stuff. So I've been able to work with Brittany Waldrop's Edits, who's a queer woman who does her own editing services. Rebecca, I just mispronounced her last name, Schraff, I think, or Sharf.
You're on the right channel when it comes to mispronouncing.
All we do is mispronounce names.
Who has been my proofreader for the last 2 books, and I'll like continue to recommend her all over the place. She's like so amazing. All of the character artists that I've worked with have been just like so good. Not a single one of them has come back to me being like, you want me to do queer characters? Like they're all like, yeah, let's go for it. Yeah, let's do it. And then you saw the little like spicy artworks and stuff too. So they're not afraid to go for it.
Yeah, NSFW.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, basically whenever I dream up a situation, I'm like, man, I'd really love to do this. We just figure it out.
Yeah.
Actually, this is a stumbling point for me. You also have audiobook stuff in the works?
Yes!
Ooh,
Yeah.
So cool.
Laura Horowitz is the narrator, and she's like one of the funniest TikTok narrators that I've ever seen in my life. But she's also like so good at her job. Like she did such a phenomenal job with this audiobook. That process was so awesome. Basically, I emailed Laura. I was like, there's no way she's gonna get back to me. She's so sought after, right? Mm-hmm. And then within a few days, she was like, hey, I'd love to talk to you about your book. This sounds really cool.
Wow.
And I was like, like choked a little bit, right? I'm like, little old me, oh gosh.
Sometimes you just have to have the audacity, I guess.
Yeah.
Nothing's real.
Yeah. Would a middle-aged white man do this? Absolutely. Send, right? Like, I will say though, that like, I never thought I would like blush and be as flustered as I was during some scenes. I was like, did I write that? Nothing like racy had even happened. They're just like kissing on it, like pressed up against the tree, you know, the scene.
Yeah.
And I'm like blushing. I'm like walking around my house. I'm like, oh, okay, this is happening. It's happening, right?
Ovulating Liz must have written this part. Who or what would you say is like an inspiration to you in your journey of like being an author?
Anyone who talks to me knows that I'm obsessed with Iron Widow.
Yes.
So Shiran Zhao is like definitely a huge inspiration to me, not only because of like their writing, which is phenomenal, their characters, their storyline, especially in Iron Widow, but just the compassion and empathy and sense of justice that they have as well as a person. That's the kind of person that I am. And so to see somebody at like, obviously like baby beans, right? So to see somebody who's like established, who is like very successful, still maintaining a really positive platform and highlighting these social issues that are going on and being like a sense of justice within a world that thrives on injustices is like, that's who we need. And I'm glad that, you know, even though I'm small beans, I'm able to contribute to that as well, right? Yeah. Obviously, like their writing style is amazing. I've read Iron Widow like 10 times.
Yeah,
so, like,
it's very good.
Particularly within Iron Widow, you have a unconventional relationship, right? And to see that be fine, right? It's normal. It's like, it's okay. Like the more love, the merrier. I think at one point it's like, just because I love this character doesn't mean that I can't love, you know, another character or whatever, right? I think it's the same way, like when you have a friendship, like just because you're really good friends with someone doesn't mean you can't be really good friends with someone else, or just because...
Lauren. Every time I'm like, I'm gonna go hang out with someone, and she's like, not me.
I'm like, how dare you get married
before I know you.
Before you knew me. It's very rude of you.
Even like familial love and platonic love, like there's no reason that romantic love can't have the same extensions. And so I think that was really powerful for me to read on the page in a book that is so like well respected and like I don't know, it's big, right? It's a really big book. Yeah. So to see that represented in a book at that caliber was really cool for me. So I'm gonna continue pushing the envelope. If Shiran can do it, so can I.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Love that.
This is one of my favorite questions.
Yeah.
Do you have any specific like writing rituals when you sit down to write?
Yeah, I do a lot of writing in my head before it actually reaches the computer. The characters go through life with me and I'm like, what would this person do? Like, what would this character do? And then lately it's just been Renfrey at the front being like, I would take everybody down, right? And I'm like, okay, let's calm down for a second because we can contribute in other ways. So I do a lot of writing, thinking particularly about characters, like molding them in my mind as I go throughout kind of day-to-day life. I will say that when I'm writing, it plays out like a movie in my head, especially when I'm writing like high action scenes or like the really cool fantasy aspects and stuff. It just plays out like a film. And so I like slow it down, close my eyes and just type on the computer and I just like dictate what's going on in my head.
Your eyes closed?
With my eyes closed.
That's wacky.
Yeah, so
Holy moly.
I will just like watch it.
Then you open your eyes and it's all just nonsense. Like you're accidentally like one key over to the left or something.
Hey, I was
suddenly in like MS Word, but also like Paint and by accident, and you've accidentally shut your computer off because your eyes are closed.
I can type with my eyes closed super easy.
It's incredible.
Yeah, and so that's one of my favorite things to do is just like watch the movie and then dictate what's going on to the best of my ability. And that's the best way for me to get like all the little details of like, is there a flash of something? Is there, you know, an expression on a character's face? What do they feel on their feet, right? What are they wearing and how is that impacting their movement, right? Do I need to put their hair up? Do I need them to be wearing a looser shirt, a tighter shirt? Like, it's a good way for me to flesh out the mechanics of the scene rather than just being like, oh, well, this would obviously happen, right? Yeah, it's a really good way for me to get like the cinematic effect of those scenes in particular. And I actually read a scene from book 2 from A Kiss of the Ocean's Breath at my writers group the other night, and one of the comments I got back was like, this read like a movie. And I'm like, that's because I wrote it with my eyes closed.
Yeah. It was a movie.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah. Basically throughout the entire process of writing A Kiss of the Siren Song, I had thunderstorm sounds on.
Nice.
So that's like, it probably makes total sense to Randy, right?
Absolutely does.
who beta read for A Kiss of the Siren Song as well. Basically that whole book is just like, the vibe is just thunderstorm. Yeah, going into A Kiss of the Ocean's Breath, I haven't quite found the atmospheric sound, but the song Batter by Emlyn just plays on repeat in my head.
Killer.
You have a very busy life outside of being an author. Just a bit. I guess my question is, what would you say? We're both also working on things.
Yeah, if you're a baby bean, I'm like a fetus bean.
I'm a bean seed.
I'm a bean sprout.
I have
a bean
seed of
sprout.
a bean.
As two people who are like trying to write but also feel the busyness of life, like I guess what advice would you have to people in that kind of situation and how to like prioritize and carve out time for writing and creativity?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of prioritizing it, absolutely. That being said, sometimes life just happens.
Yeah.
Like, I've been sitting on the first draft of A Kiss of the Ocean's Breath for about 18 months, almost 20 months now, and I'm finally like in it and able to like start fleshing things out again. But life just happened and that's okay. I will say that for me, a big game changer was having not just notes on my phone, but I specifically have the Google Docs app on my phone.
Yeah.
And so I can just bring it up if I'm like, oh, I'm really inspired to write this thing right now. And then I can punch out like 100 words. And then if I feel like I have the time to keep going, then sometimes I'll bring open my laptop if I have it with me. When I first started seriously writing in 2017, what I would do is between classes, I would sit by the then Tim Hortons by the window with my headphones on, and I would just dissociate for like an hour.
Big mood. Big mood.
Sometimes I would write and sometimes I would just watch the characters and we would kind of like interact and I would put them in different situations and kind of go from there. With A Kiss of the Siren Song, I happened to be traveling with my mom to New York while I was drafting that one back in 2022, and so I wrote half of the first draft on the airplane to and from New York. Yeah. I don't want to say it's like organizing necessarily, but it's like when you feel like you really need to prioritize that writing thing, go for it. I'm not the person who will say you need to write like 50 words a day. That works for some people, it does not work for me.
Yeah.
And I understand why it does work for some people, because then it's like, okay, from like 7 a.m. to 7:30 I'm writing. If I write 50 words, I write 50 words. If I write 500 words, I write 500 words. Cool. Yeah. My schedule kind of allows for that, but not consistently, and so I would just feel guilty if I didn't have an opportunity to actually meet that, and then that makes me feel bad, and then that makes me not want to do it the next day. It's kind of this cascading effect. So yeah, I guess my biggest advice is like when you feel that tug, roll with it.
Like capitalizing on your motivation and your inspiration.
Yeah. Sometimes just like going for a walk, like around the block or something, or like go sit.
Hot girl walk.
A hot girl walk. Or go sit on a bench or something and people
hot
watch.
Bench.
Hot girl bench. Everything. Hot bench. Law show. Have you seen Hot Bench?
No.
You guys have a lie detector?
We're the lie detector.
Hot bench.
Hot bench.
Saucy.
But yeah, just like go for like a quick walk, or go sit on a bench, or like somewhere, or like if you really like going to the mall or something.
Can't relate.
Yeah,
Can't
me either.
I love the mall. I love the mall. I will not be coerced to not like the mall by you people. Our mall has a pirate ship. Come on.
That's true. I have a photo of all of us on the pirate ship,
actually
which
true.
is awesome.
I can insert it right here.
There we are.
Here we are.
Go and engage with something that you really enjoy being around, or if you really like people watching, or sometimes I just need to sit with my headphones on and listen to the atmospheric sounds. Or my other big thing that I'm inspired by consistently is music. My first book that is unfinished and may or may not ever see the light of day was inspired by Sounds of Silence. A Kiss of the Siren Song is Way Down We Go by Kaleo.
Is that the one that's like, way down we go?
Yeah. And You and I Collide, obviously, Collide by Howie Day was like the song for that one, right?
I think that's all the questions that we had.
I think so. So we're just very happy to have sat down with you and chatted about your work and the important work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And so excited to finally have you on the channel.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Crows, let's go. Go buy Liz's books.
Go. Hey, where can people find you,
Where can
Liz?
people find
Oh
you?
yeah, people can find me everywhere and everywhere. I am in
You're omnipotent.
God.
Omnipresent.
You can get my books anywhere. Please order them from your local independent bookstore if you can. Go support them. They can find them on Ingram Spark. That's their thing, not yours. Don't worry about it. You can also find me on Amazon. All my books are on KU. You can find Cerebral Supernova available like in print like this on Amazon. That's it. You can also find it in the Sweet Bitter Love anthology with these two lovely folks. Where else can you find? Salient Bookstore in the States has copies of A Kiss of the Siren Song right now. It will have You and I Collide next year. You can get fun special editions of those.
And we'll make sure to link below Liz's Instagram and
Come follow me, it's a vibe.
TikTok and stuff, just so that people can keep up with you and keep up with what you're doing.
Yeah, and subscribe to these folks.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Do the things.
Do the thing.
Be full of rage and also
Be
joy.
full of rage.
We'll allow joy, but we have a lot of rage on this couch right now. So
We're just girls.
we're just girls and we're full of ire. Anyway.
That was my demon face. Yeah.
Bye, demon. Mwah.
Can you guys hear my tummy?
I can, yeah.